How is everybody? How are you, Thomas?
Hi, guys. Hi, Jason. Hey, Timony. Yeah, I'm okay, considering, we're living on a planet overtaken by demonic fucking monsters. But apart from that, I'm great.
Your video, I think it was the one you posted yesterday. I wanted to mention to everybody really quick too. I made a post about it. I have not been getting the notifications for Thomas's video. So if you could all go to his page, well, actually maybe all of them, the Thomas Sheridan 2, and Beyond Room 313, and just renew your subscription on it with the bell thing. Yeah. So I think it was the video that you went that went up yesterday where you just unleashed with this pure. It was so clear and so direct energy about the fuckery. And it was so refreshing. And I'm sure everybody else out there who has seen it, if you haven't had a chance to see it, go watch it. We've posted it everywhere. It's out there. Go watch it. It made me feel a lot better. So thank you for putting that out there.
Yeah, that was this morning. My friend at work. Yeah, I finished up work on Monday afternoon. And my friend Leroy at the job was looking at me in the car with he was like, No. He's on our side. He was just like, he'd never seen me so like angry making a video like that before.
Lucky for Leroy. Thank you to everybody who showed up to the pub yesterday. I know I got a few DMs from some of you asking if I was okay. I was fine. I just had a really bad migraine yesterday, but I appreciate everybody reaching out. Yeah, and I want to say thank you also to Adrian Harrington. He sent me a really cool remix of a clip from Thomas's video. It was some amazing music, so we'll share that later. But even more than that, I was just really feeling the shit today. Physically, I felt fine, but yeah, I attempted to take my son out over the weekend to do a nice Christmas thing for him, and it was just complete fucking bullshit. Every single place we went, we ended up in a confrontation over masks and all kinds of shit. And so it just came back and it was heavy. And then there was just some stuff that came out on the news. And I haven't felt like really down and depressed about things for a while. And I was feeling really shitty earlier. But then Adrian made me laugh. I feel so much better now. And I'm just happy to be here with all of you. And we're going to kind of take a sidestep from the stories that we curated for today. Really going to kind of sidestep us. I need to focus on something else for a little bit. I think we all do. Have some laughs, tear a few things apart, and it'll be a grand time. So I'm so glad to see all of you here, and everybody looks well.
And welcome to people who've come over from the Gran Torino show that I was just on.
Oh, yes. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I was just on with Ronan on the Gran Torino podcast on Telegram, and he has a big following. So I invited them to come over to watch us here. So if they're here, welcome, and I hope we make you feel better.
Yes, that is the aim of the game for today, for sure. Okay, so here we go. Is the octopus an extraterrestrial import that arrived to Earth via a comet? Paper resurrects controversial theory that life began elsewhere in the universe and claims alien viruses raining down on our planet drove evolution. Roughly 540 million years ago, life on Earth changed dramatically. The planet, once dominated by simple organisms, suddenly became home to most of the major animal groups known today. The Cambrian explosion marked a critical turning point in the evolutionary timeline, and some speculate it may have been driven by forces from out of this world. A bizarre and wildly dismayed theory known as Panspermia argues that life on Earth was seeded by biological material transported from elsewhere in the universe. And according to a new study based on the theory, octopuses could be evidence of this. Given the complexity of the octopus's nervous system, camera-like eyes, flexibility, and camouflage abilities, which appear seemingly out of nowhere in its family tree, the study proposes that cephalopods may have alien origins. It's one of the many bizarre claims in a new paper published to the journal Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology. The study, authored by 33 researchers from universities and institutes around the world, reviews evidence that is consistent with the Heil thesis of cometary biology, or panspermia. By this theory, the entire ensemble of habitable planets in the galaxy constitutes a single interconnected biosphere. This would mean that life exists all across the universe and arose long before the first organisms began to emerge on Earth. The researchers argue that life may have been seeded here on Earth by life-bearing comets as soon as conditions on Earth allowed it to flourish, or about or just before 4.1 billion years ago. Living organisms such as space-resistant and space-hardy bacteria, viruses, more complex eukaryotic cells, fertilized ova, and seeds have been continuously delivered ever since to Earth. Sorry, it's written a little weird. So being one important driver of the further terrestrial evolution, which has resulted in considerable genetic diversity in which, whoa, my phone freaked out. Hold on. Whoa, okay, that was weird. Okay, viruses and retroviruses play a critical role in the argument due to their ability to alter the genetic makeup of the organisms they infect. God damn. Sorry, guys. Okay. No. Okay. As the transformative genes responsible for the octopus's complex features can't be easily traced back throughout its family tree, the researchers say they seem to be borrowed from the distant future. One plausible explanation, in our view, is that the new genes are likely new extraterrestrial imports to Earth, most plausibly as an already coherent group of functioning genes within crypto-preserved and matrix-protected fertilized octopus eggs. Thus, the possibility that crypto-served squid and/or octopus eggs arrived in icy bolides several 100 million years ago should not be discounted, as that would be a parsimonious cosmic explanation for the octopus's sudden emergence on Earth circa 270 million years ago. Indeed, this principle applies to the sudden appearance in the fossil record of pretty well all major life forms. With such bold conclusions, it's little wonder why the paper has drawn criticism from other scientists. At the very least, some experts say it calls for additional research to put the hypothesis to the test. There's one thing, however, most appear to be in agreement on. The article is worth thinking about, says virologist Karen Molling of the Max Planck Institute Molecular Genetics in Berlin and the Institute of Medical Microbiology in Zurich. And yep, that's about it. So what do you think about that, Thomas?
Well, firstly, that was a great story to lead in with, and you all know exactly how I feel about the whole octopus thing. There's absolutely no doubt that octopuses are an alien species, and I don't even believe they're regular cephalopods. There's loads of reasons why. Just because they kind of bear similarity to things like cuttlefish and squids, they're incredibly different as well. They have 9 brains, 8 in each tentacle. And this a completely different set of RNA that's alien to this planet, literally. So my theory has been that they were probably inside Europa, the moon of Jupiter. Which is prone to volcanic eruptions and ejects its internal water below its ice layer into space. They literally were flash frozen the minute they entered into the atmosphere, into the solar system, and traveled across in spaceships of blocks of ice, dissolved in the atmosphere and ended up in the oceans. I've no doubt about this, but it's also very interesting, that story talking about how there's also the possibility, and I'm not ruling this out either, that the regular octopus was an existing cephalopod that this alien virus jumped into and became intelligent. It also might explain where Homo sapiens came from. It is quite possible that the same thing could have happened with apes, that one branch of ape was actually infected with the virus and became eventually Homo sapiens, while the other apes just continued to be regular apes. Now, that's a powerful thing to think about, but I don't, they talk about this panspermia thing as if it's a whacked out thing. To me, it's very obvious. The Earth is being bombarded by objects like meteorites, asteroids, and comets, and comet dust tails all the time for millions and billions of years. So obviously some of that stuff is going to end up here. And if it's carrying, all I know is you look at the old Hermetic thing, as above, so below. A comet looks like a human sperm or a mammal sperm. So, and the Earth could be seen as an egg with the atmosphere being the barrier. And just like in a sperm, most of them don't get through, but one of them, a couple of million gets through and makes a baby. The same thing, one of the couple of million comets gets through and makes a cephalopod like or an octopus come alive or something. And I'm mainly down with the theory it came from Europa. I don't know why. I feel very deeply about that. But I'm not closed-minded to the other idea that came as a virus in a sperm that, weapon energized, shall we say, an existing cephalopod. But it also brings us, before I let Jason, you guys get in, it also brings us to what's going on at the moment. I still cannot get that story out of my head that the Wuhan thingy happened with a meteorite exploding over the city on that weekend. Yeah. And there are academics who say it could have came on that meteorite. So this is a great story to start with. It's kind of like sets the tone for the rest of the show. And yeah, this is where we belong in these kinds of discussions. If we're going to get esoteric, these are the great kind of esoteric discussions.
And I keep going back to the Oumuamua thing, going through space, as that could be some kind of like ejecting out these life force entities and finding a place where it's fertile enough, so to speak, for a life force entity to hook onto a being. Life confetti. Yeah, life confetti, just going throughout the universe and just putting it everywhere. But again, that idea that like on a given planet there are vessels that are capable of containing a life force entity, and then there are other entities, biological entities that are not, that don't have complex enough of a nervous system or don't have complex enough of a brain or physiology in order to house a fully formed life force entity. So you mostly have, with some of those animals, you have kind of an animal soul, so to speak, the same kind of thing that, as a human being, the human animal has its own animal soul that takes an animal mind that manages things like the heart rate, the circadian rhythms, all that stuff that we don't deliberately consciously have to put our mind onto, the way our heart works, the way that our endocrine system works and all those rhythms. But there is that intelligence within the body that manages those things on their own. But then there's us, the people behind the eyes, the people behind the mind, using the senses as a vessel to operate within. And I would imagine, like you're saying, Thomas, if something comes and throughout the universe and drops life force entities in there, whatever planet, whatever moon, whatever celestial body that's out there that has life forms complex enough for a life force entity to inhabit, you would have quite a I would imagine you'd have a vast what's the word I'm looking for? There'd be a lot of different types of entities out there, not just hominid, not just insectoid, not just not just octopuses and stuff like that, but wherever some type of creature grew up on a planet and was complex enough to hold life in it. And who knows, with what's going on right now with all these asteroids and shit coming in, if that's what they are alluding to somehow.
And they take it one step, sort of like tinfoil hat further, but like we live in an age where anything is possible at this point, considering what we're dealing with already. What if the needlecraft, what if the elites, the globalists, the establishment, we're going to call them, have become aware that this has now happened to humans again, that somehow an alien virus has infected us from outer space and it's going to change us in such a way that they won't be able to control us anymore, that they won't be able to keep their systems intact anymore because a different kind of human is coming out of it. And this is why this so-called needlecraft is actually containing RNA treatment, the same kind of issue with the octopuses, different RNA. I'm open to anything at this stage at the game, but I do wonder, like this octopus consciousness that rose in the last couple of years before this all happened, was this the collective unconscious pointing these things out to us to say, it's coming again, it's coming again.
Yeah, and in what other time in history have they wanted to needlecraft every last person on the planet?
Yeah, they what you call it, the needlecrafts don't work that way. You have to have a 20% group that are not needlecraft in order for the actual immunity to kick in. So they're not interested in immunity. They're interested in something else completely.
Right, because that's just not the way it works.
Yeah.
Right. And then we've talked about this a little bit before, and I think you mentioned it in the dream that you were having the other night where you were being forced into it, where there was like little tendrils coming out.
Yeah, it was like an insect, and the 4 needlecrafts gave it its 4 legs. I know most insects have 6 legs, but it gave it its 4 legs in order to bring to life. And it was it was almost like an insecty kind of thing. I can't explain it, but it was coming to life, and it was almost like this insect was being put inside me to offset some other effect. So maybe that insect is a predator sent in there to destroy this naturally occurring upgrade to DNA coming from outer space. Tinfoil hat, I understand. But again, I'm throwing everything out there because look at the fucking world we live in at the moment. All bets are off. Yeah.
Right. The craziest, most insane shit that we didn't think we'd ever see are happening, on the daily to the hour. So why the fuck should we hold back?
No.
Which reminds me, as you guys were talking about that, we watched one of Max Egan's videos from early December, late November. And in part of the video, he shared this video clip that was allegedly, again, this could be total bullshit or it could be something real, that there was a butcher who somehow got his hands on a vial of the needlecraft and injected it into a chicken, slaughtered the chicken, plucked it, and went to prepare it. And when he was slicing up the chicken meat, you could see that the muscles within the chicken were being stimulated, even though the head had been cut off and it had been plucked, it had been prepared, and he was going through with his knife, slicing off a leg, and the chicken tissue was undulating, was pulsating, as if there was still some sort of life force within the nervous system of that chicken that was freshly killed. And
that happens naturally too, though, as well. My grandmother used to keep chickens in the backyard because they came out of real poverty. And that they had to have their own chickens, and my uncle used to chop their heads off, and they'd be running around the yard with no head on them, and he'd be laughing and he'd be bringing the kids in off the street to show them the chicken with no head running around, and for a laugh. But but again, there could be other things too, that could be true also. Like I'm not open to it, but I do know that chickens can. I've seen it's pretty creepy actually. I've seen, images of the slaughterhouses where you see them and they're all like wobbling and moving,
Yeah.
It kind of puts you off KFC. I know.
Yeah. But I just thought that was interesting. But just that idea that perhaps, something that's injected with something that's in that thing can be used to reanimate flesh, if that's possible.
Yeah, or even just as a host, if the thing was dead, it wouldn't know the difference.
Okay, we're gonna have fun with this one. Magic
We've already
dirt.
had fun.
Well, it's just gonna get better. Magic dirt. I laughed out loud when I was reading this to myself. Magic dirt. How the internet fueled and defeated the pandemic's weirdest MLM. The social media post started in May. Photos and videos of smiling people, mostly women, drinking mason jars of black liquid, slathering black paste on their faces and feet, or dipping babies and dogs in tubs of the black water. They tagged the post #BOO and linked to a website that sold a product called Black Oxygen Organics. Black Oxygen Organics, or BOO for short, is difficult to classify. It was marketed as fulvic acid, a compound derived from decayed plants that was dug up from an Ontario peat bog. The website of the Canadian company that sold it billed it as the end product and smallest particle of the decomposition of ancient organic matter. Put more simply, the product is dirt. 4.5 ounces of it, sealed in a sleek black plastic baggie and sold for $110 plus shipping. Visitors to the Black Oxygen Organics website, recently taken offline, were greeted with a pair of white hands cradling cups of dirt like an offering. A gift from the ground, it reads. Drink it, wear it, bathe in it. BOO, which can be taken by anyone at any age as well as animals, according to the company, claims many benefits and uses, including improved brain function and heart health, and ridding the body of so-called toxins that include heavy metals, pesticides, and parasites. By the end of the summer, online ads for BOO had made their way to millions of people within the internet subcultures and embrace fringe supplements. including the mixed martial arts community, anti-needlecraft, and COVID denier groups. And finally, more general alternative health and fake cure spaces. And people seem to be buying it. Parts of TikTok and Instagram were flooded with hashtag boo posts. The businessman behind Black Oxygen Organics has been selling mud in various forms for 25 years now, but boo sold in amounts that surprised even its own executives. The stars appeared aligned for it. A pandemic marked by unprecedented and politicized misinformation had spurred a revival in wonder cures. Well-connected Facebook groups of alternative health seekers and needlecraft skeptics provided an audience and eager customer base for a new kind of medicine. And the too good to be true testimonials posted to social media attracted a wave of direct sellers. Many of them women dipping their toes into the often unprofitable world of multi-level marketing for the first time. But success came at a price. Canadian and US health regulators have cracked down on boo in recent months, initiating recalls and product holds at the border. And just as an online army of fans powered boo's success, an oppositional force of online skeptics threatened to shut it down. Just before Thanksgiving, the company announced it in an email it was closing up shop for good. Sellers packed video calls mourning the death of their miracle cure, railing against executives who had taken their money and seemingly run, and wondered how they might recoup the thousands of dollars they paid for boo that never arrived. The announcement was the apparent end of one of the most haltingly successful companies to ride a wave of interest online and directly sold alternative medicines, immunity boosting oils, supplements, herbs, elixirs, and so-called superfoods that, despite widespread concerns over their efficacy and safety, make up a lightly regulated multi-billion-dollar industry. In a world where consumers flock to alternative health products, boo seemed to provide an answer to the question: just how far are people willing to dig to find their miracle cure? It's a fucking bag of dirt.
Well, okay, let's dirt, or what you call dirt, we call soil, right? Soil is all over the world, has been consumed for health reasons in several cultures.
Yes.
The Koreans particularly, but that's especially, that's because the minerals may be lacking in certain foods. Also,
Yes.
A lot of pregnant women have an urge to eat soil, or dirt as you call it. Now, that's from a bog, right? Now, I live in the land of bogs. 1/5 of Ireland is bogs, right? Bogs are about depth. There's only one just up the road here, 100 meters, 100 yards. And they're full of debt. That's what a bog is. It's a place of debt, okay? And having been nearly been eaten by them a few times myself when I was walking across them. They will take you like quicksand and suck you down. It's like the dead marshes in Lord of the Rings. Down in the bog is dead animals, dead people, dead air. So these people are taking now. That's interesting too, because all this debt generates fuel. If you take the bogs in Ireland and you dry them, and in other countries, it creates a fuel that burns as well as coal. So it's full of life as well. It's full of the storage of life. So I kind of get that bit of it, but that would be full of. But the reason, when ancient bog bodies, you've heard about them. People have fallen to the bogs and they're preserved by them. That's the acidic waters. That's where the kind of thing for Tolkien's dead marshes came from. But the bogs to me represent death, just death and decay. And it's not the kind of thing I'd want to put in my body. If I was putting soil in my body, it'd be I think of really good agricultural soil or something like that hasn't been full of pesticides. But who knows? I don't know. If it works or not, I don't know. But maybe just people are so lacking natural minerals that even minerals from a bog is helping them.
Yeah, and so it's kind of an irony thing, right? So our soils, at least here in the U.S., I'm not sure about over in Ireland, but at least here in the U.S., most of our soil is completely dead. There's no life left in it. It's just been destroyed. So they take something like that. What is that? Problem, reaction, solution. So we have a problem with our soil. Even the foods that are grown, you can eat organic as much as you like, and it's still, probably better. But you can eat all the vegetables and all the stuff that grows out of the ground. But the plants themselves are still devoid of any nutrient because the soil that they were grown in doesn't have any. So it's no wonder people are having these mineral deficiency cravings where I think pica is the name for one of them. Pregnant women often get that if they're deficient in minerals, and you just feel like you just have to eat dirt. Yeah. But that's how it gets so fucked up is dirt should be a thing. I could, oh my God. Okay. To sell somebody a bag of dirt for $110 is such an insult to what our way of life should be, how we should be able to. Sorry. That was weird. We should be able to be eating the foods and everything and not being mineral deficient. But then, they take it and they make it a multi-level marketing thing. And it's honestly, it's sad. It was so sad that it was funny.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's the same here in Europe. It's not too bad. In Northern Europe here, most of our fruit and vegetables is grown in Holland. And because when they reclaimed the ocean, the sea, and create new land with the dikes, those loads of natural minerals in that land from the sea. And so that's why the agriculture was so good in Holland. And it's all grown under greenhouses. But that's all those minerals in Holland. That's why they're also good at growing flowers, like tulips and stuff like that. And
right.
those minerals have all been depleted again, just like in North America. And they have to use hydroponics and stuff like that to actually put them in there. But the food has, I can tell, I could remember about 5 years ago, no, longer. In the 90s, I was still living in the US and I was in Italy visiting. And I went into a restaurant somewhere in Italy and I tasted tomatoes that I had not tasted since I was a baby. You could taste the earth in them, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I remember red peppers when they were, in Ireland, we grow nothing anymore because of the EU. But I remember red peppers when I was a kid. They had that smell, that gas came out of them. Tomatoes were the same. And the only place you can still get them is in very hot countries in Southern Europe. Otherwise, they're not like that. I'm sure in Mexico, you get really good vegetables as well. But there's that lack of smell, that lack of earthiness is because the soil is shit.
Yeah. And so that has actually led me to another train of thought where I was thinking about it the other day is with all the GMO crops and all of the land being bought up by billionaires and trillionaires, and the new food that's being grown, what if another part of the needlecraft experiment is for us to be able to eat and assimilate the foods that are going to be grown in mass? What if we have to have some sort of genetic alteration to be able to interface with that food? So where if we eat it, it doesn't kill us.
Well, Timothy, that's a genius thing you just came up with. Wow. And you know what that reminds me of? The reason why the Indo-Europeans became a successful tribe in Eurasia 6,000 years ago is because they developed the gene inside them to digest lactic acid. And therefore, they could drink milk, and that was a meat, that was a protein, so and they could make cheese and butter and so on. And they took over all of Europe and the Asian subcontinent in no time, simply because they had a supply of protein which they could digest which the others couldn't. And and that's how the bovine worship became central to Indo-European pagan. You have the sacred cow in India, you have all the bovine cults all over Europe in the pagan days. It was because the ancient ancestors saw the sacred cow, the sacred bull, as producing the milk that could actually make them strong and keep them alive in winter. You'd have cheese. That was your meat for the winter, was cheese. If the Proto-Europeans who couldn't digest lactic acid were wiped out by or assimilated by the Indo-Europeans. So that's a brilliant point. The shit food coming, and this also explains why Gates Windows Zero is obsessed with buying up farmland. These people are so evil. I wouldn't put anything past them.
Yeah, I mean, a really good case in point is celiac disease and gluten intolerance, which is a very, 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 very small percentage of people who are actually have that disease, to where anything that comes into their house, they have to screen all of it, from their toothpaste to their body washes, everything that comes in. But once they introduced GMO wheat and the glyphosate is an endocrine disruptor, and it will destroy DNA. So I think that this huge wave that we have now, people who are gluten intolerant, it's not actually the gluten, it's the genetically modified gluten with the introduction of things like glyphosate into it. So that's just one example. And if you start to think that all of our food is going to have these mutations in them soon, for, to end world hunger, fucking bullshit. They're just going to recycle all of the same shit back to us.
Climate change, yeah. Also,
Yeah,
peanuts. What happened with peanuts? A peanut is just a pea. It's a linguum. It's not it's not a special thing. So when did people, and why did people suddenly become allergic to a pea?
Yeah, and like deathly allergic.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense now. I think you've well done, Timothy. I think you've actually solved the mystery there that's been playing on my mind. Yeah. You give me one more thing to have nightmares about.
And one more thing on that lines too, that reminds me of something I heard in one of Cliff High's videos from about a month ago, with the idea of the way that the CCP and the globalists have their eyes set on the North American continent as kind of where their future breadbasket is going to be, so they can grow all the foods that are going to be used in the new, probably within the new global economy. That will probably be that thing where they're talking about getting rid of beef, getting rid of all these things because they're allegedly, bad for the environment. And just that idea that, we've all seen that video that somebody posted in the group about the dude eating mealworms with his girlfriend and stuff like that, where I imagine that, they're, like Timothy said, they're preparing these diets for us that, just like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, they have to have, what is it, the lysine within it, so that if the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park don't have the right nutrient in their food, they'll die. So I imagine it could be something like Timothy was saying, very similar, that if we don't, adapt to the diet that they're going to be giving us, of bugs and weird soy shit. Like somebody made a comment in the live chat a few minutes ago about all the soy and everything now. And it's just, we've gone so far away from just eating vegetables that we call them organic now, but in our grandparents and great grandparents' generations, those are just vegetables. They were just, the food that you grew in the backyard where the soil still had selenium and nutrients in it. It was just real food back then. But no, I just really do wonder if that's what the CCP has its eyes on the North American continent for. And that's why they wouldn't ever do a kinetic war over here or an invasion of the land, because they wouldn't want to ruin it if it's going to need to be fertile soil. So they couldn't disrupt the power system over here, for instance, because it would cause a nuclear reactor shut down. And, we wouldn't want to have the water supplies poisoned here. So I would imagine that's the one saving thing that we have for us, is that the globalists have their eyes on this land as a breadbasket. So just something to take.
You reminded me of something else, and I think you're right about North America, because it's ideal for that kind of agriculture with all the different climates and the big prairies and everything. But you reminded me of something else. Like in World War I, Flanders, the battlefields in Belgium and Holland, Belgium and France, and the absolute carnage that happened. You've all seen the movie 1917, and the unbelievable death that took place in the Somme and Passchendaele and Verdun. You know what they all are today? They're all big food growing regions. Like those dead bodies from all those soldiers fertilized that soil. And I wrote a song a few years ago, and I had with my friends, and it was the lyric at the end was, we turned the dead into butter and bread. And that was inspired by like being in Flanders and visiting and seeing all these farmers like growing everything on a place where millions and millions of young men were brutally blown to bits into the soil. And it's like, it's just bizarre just when you think about that, that we're eating the soil. We're eating from the soil where the battlefields of World War I happened.
Wow. Back to the bogs.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah, there's some real some light news, some lighthearted stuff for everybody to think about as they drift off to sleep. Okay. The second coming of Saturn, the dark god in the abyss. Let's start with a bit of explanation about where this is going. It's my belief that the entity known to us as the Roman god Saturn, or the Greek equivalent Kronos, has gone by many names over the centuries. We can trace his origins much farther in history, however, than the classical era, farther even than Greece's archaic period, which began around the time that Isaiah was called to prophecy in the middle of the 8th century BC. Put simply, when you see any of these names, Saturn, Kronos, Baal, Haman, El, Milcom, Molech, Dagon, Asur, Enlil, Kumbari, and many others, please remember that they all refer to the same entity. It's the same God who's used different identities in times, places, and peoples have changed. I believe this entity has two other names, but I'll withhold those now for now to build dramatic tension. The characteristics of this entity, his personality, if you will, has changed over the years, or at least has been perceived differently by various cultures. He was often seen as cunning, cruel, and vindictive, especially where humans were concerned. At other times, he was believed to be kindly, wise, and the ruler of a better time when the world was at peace and blessed with plenty. All of his aspects, however, are linked to the netherworld. Clues embedded in the myths and rituals of the cultures that occupied the lands of the Bible lead to fascinating conclusions about the nature of this character. Most significant, he led a rebellion against God that was remembered by Jews of the Second Temple period, the time that includes the ministries of Jesus and the apostles. This uprising, believed to be one of the reasons the world is in its fallen state, is referenced in the New Testament, most prominently by Peter and Jude. This rebellion not only violated a taboo against species propagating outside of their own kind, but Saturn and his colleagues were also condemned for teaching humanity things we weren't supposed to know. For this rebellion, he and his associates were banished to Tartarus. This is an important piece of information that's not obvious to English speakers because the Greek word Tartarosos in 2 Peter 2:4 is rendered hell in most English language Bibles. However, even though his rebellion took place before the flood, and was probably the reason for it, this fallen angel still affects our world today, and not in a good way. How is it possible? I can only speculate, but I'll try to offer some plausible reasons. We'll begin with his oldest incarnation and work our way forward. It takes us back to the first book of the Bible, where the first 4 verses of the 6th chapter describe very briefly an event that's had a far-reaching impact on humanity's consciousness. When man began to multiply over the lands and daughters were born, the sons of God and the daughters of all of them were attractive. And they took as their wives as they chose. And I'm not going to finish reading all that. It's okay. Those 4 verses are among the most controversial in the Bible. The early church understood their meaning. So did the apostles. In short, the sons of God were supernatural beings who came to earth and mated with human women. These unions produced monstrous offsprings with disastrous consequences. This is not the majority view of Christian theologians today. Most seminaries will teach that what is said in Genesis 6 were righteous male descendants of Seth. We've dealt with this elsewhere, especially in Veneration and Giants, Gods, and Dragons. The books I co-authored with my wife, Sharon, so I won't recapitulate it here. This is written, it's got all scrambled up too. Okay, sorry. My phone's having some really weird issues.
Good story, though. You're picking great stories tonight.
Yeah, it's like the paragraphs are going out of order. Anyways, okay. I think we can just riff off of what's said.
Yeah. So what was the basic premise of the whole Saturn thing? Well, that it's coming back as a cult or something?
Yeah. Okay, here, I'm going to finish it up with this. It'll wrap it up. But the transgression of the Watchers was more than just violating a taboo against interspecies sex and burdening mankind with a threat of destruction at the hands of their monstrous offspring. The text of Enoch, which influenced the Jews throughout the rebellious Watchers down to the time of Jesus and the apostles, makes clear that the other half of their plot was the dissemination of forbidden knowledge, deadly secrets that humanity was not meant to know. Okay, sorry that got all scrambled up right there. It was not very concise, but yeah, they're tying in, the entity that some of us will call Saturn or Kronos, and, all those other names, how it's tied into the Bible, but then they took it further than that, which I thought was cool because it did get a little bit Bible heavy for a minute. But I get that they were just trying to lay the groundwork for what they were talking about.
Yeah, it's also what most people know too.
Yeah, it's more relatable that way.
Yeah, I mean, the Saturn El was a very powerful deity in the Middle East before Judaism, the old kings of Israel. Actually, we're having all these amazing synchronicities. Well, you hear some weird noises. We're having all these weird synchronicities. I said that just about, with the previous story was about World War I. And I said the movie 1917, the poem when one of the British soldiers says to the officer, "Is it just the two of us?" And he quotes from the Rudyard Kipling poem, "Down from Gehenna up to the throne, he who travels light travels alone." Now, Gehenna was where the old pagan kings of Israel used to worship El, or later became Baal, which is Saturn. And that's very interesting how the two stories tied up there. But when I was researching for the Druid Code, I think the favorite book that I've written, and my own personal favorite of all the books I've written, the Druid Code, I was speculating even if Balor, the Irish god Balor, was even El, because there was Baal worship did happen definitely in Scotland and in parts of England because of the Romans. The Roman military adopted Baal as a god, a fertility god now, and because of Roman troops in Britain, the Baal worship seeped into this part of the world. In fact, St. John's Eve, which is celebrated here in this part of Ireland, much more sort of like enthusiastically than Halloween Samhain, might well be a Baal festival. And Beltane may well be related to that as well, a Beltane. Now, the Saturn thing is always sort of in the background, isn't it? The whole thing, it's almost like we hear about Lucifer, we hear about all these other gods, we hear about Diana, we hear about Baphomet, but Saturn is always this one that always seems to be in the background and always comes back every so often. But it's a very misunderstood god, because Baal was a fertility god of, and that's how the Greeks came up with Kronos. It was the seasons, the planting season, and although he's often shown eating babies, here we go again, another synchronicity. That's to represent that time consumes everything. Chronology, old father time. That's how that comes from. Chronology, Kronos, and the whole thing. When these archetypes resurface, like Saturn is right now, I always find that to be very profound. Like Lucifer resurfacing about 5 or 6 years ago. There's something happening in the zeitgeist that we need to pay attention to, that the archetype of Saturn is telling us about.
And just like we were talking about in the last story with the soil reclaiming people and people eating that soil again, where, recycling, kind of a Soylent Green type of thing. But I was also going to ask Thomas, is Baal or Baal the same as entity number 1 in the Lesser Key of Solomon? Is that the same one with in the Lesser Key of Solomon? You know what I'm talking about? The entity number 1 in that book? I think it's Baal or yeah.
I know that, but I don't think it is though.
Okay, I'll
have to check that one. A long time since I've looked at the Lesser Key, but yeah, it might be right.
Because I was going to say, I think that's the one where people also call him Beelzebub, but just the thing with the flies being associated with Beelzebub and that idea of decomposing flesh, and then if you have and
there's lots of crossovers. Pazuzu, who I came into came face to face with 2 weeks ago in the Ashmolean Museum. Pazuzu is also the Lord of the Flies. Because he's associated with pestilences, insects. Here we go. We're talking about people would have to eat insects in the future. It's like, it's weird. And me dreaming about the insect in my arm. It's amazing how all these stories always have this kind of like adhesive and cohesion that brings them all together when we don't notice before we go on air.
Right. And it's like, and then we've got Saturnalia coming up here, the festival of Saturnalia, as we get closer to the solstice and into the season of Capricorn as an Earth season.
That's where the Christmas gift giving comes from. In Saturnalia by the Romans was a festival where the slaves were given gifts by the owners, and where the servants and the poor working class were given gifts by the well. It was actually a beautiful thing. In fact, it was the spirit of Scrooge in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. It was about giving to the people that don't have it. So you Christians who were talking about Christian charity at Christmas, remember it was pagan Romans who gave you that.
Yeah.
During Saturnalia. You remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, all these synchronicities here, and it's just, there's always this common thread that we don't intend to put these consciously. We don't consciously intend to weave these threads into the stories, but there's always this common thread that goes through here. So again, I'm gonna go grab my copy of the Lesser Key of Solomon real quick.
Perfect timing to go into the psychic water if you're ready for that.
Yep.
All right.
Is it bad? Is it great? Are you happy? Are you irate? The weekend psychic weather.
The psychic weather report this week with me, your host, your weatherman, Thomas Sheridan. Well, let me tell you something. This is the age of the volcano. The volcano is the psychic weather this week. The volcano of righteous rage burning within inside us being brought to the surface. The volcano of the repressed feelings of desire for freedom, desire for truth, desire for justice, exploding to the surface. This is mirrored by the recent volcanic activity that is now happening in Iceland and in Indonesia. As above, so below. If you have something you want to let out inside you now, let it out, because it will serve you very, very well. Bottling it will make you die. This is the period where you let it out. That doesn't mean you do something self-destructive or you hurt people's feelings or you do anything. But if you have a rage, you exercise that rage any way you can, by creativity, by going to a boxing gym and punching a bag, anything. But get the rage, the volcanic rage inside you has to be released right now. In fact, it's vital to do this. That's the important thing. When this is happening now, let it out. Don't do it in a self-destructive way that will damage other people and damage yourself. Do it in a way it will come out and possibly be transferred into creativity. But if you have a rage inside you right now, let me tell you, according to the psychic weather this at the moment, that is a righteous rage. That is a glorious fury. And you let that out of yourself. And that is the psychic weather this week. Let the volcano explode, let the lava flow, and let those forces from inside the lower poles of your cognition and your psyche to the surface. Because if you don't let that volcano blow, it will destroy you. Rage, rage, rage. And that's the psychic weather.
Is it bad? Is it great? Are you happy? Are you irate? The weekend psychic weather.
Awesome, Thomas. I really like that. And just reminds me of Christian Morris's joke every time that we're there in the pub where he's got the muting for the microphone button. If he needs to fart really loud, just let it out. It's one of those things. If you got to let it out, just let it all out. But
bringing it back to mythology, I just reminded then, just as we ended that in Irish mythology, there was a point when the Cuchulainn was leading the men of Ulster against the men of Connacht, and it's all seemed hopeless. And something happened to Cuchulainn where what he's described. In fact, it's actually fascinating that it was translated from ancient Irish into modern English as a warp spasm, where he shapeshifted into a kind of a berserker type mode and charged the opposing army in this sort of psychedelic warlike trance state and was able to defeat them, even though they had the greater numbers. Something also happened with the Crusaders, and not our favorite people, but when they defeated Saladin, I think at the Battle of Tyre, that they actually transformed into a kind of an unhuman force that the rage and fury allowed them to get over that. So there's something very shamanic. You have all these new age hippies going on about, oh, I'm so shamanic, I'm so relaxed in that tune, man. Fucking telephone wires coming out of my head, like this kind of thing. But also, the berserkers were shamans. It is also a warrior, a shamanic warrior thing. You get that. What's that movie? Ridley Scott's movie with Cameron, with Russell Crowe, Gladiator. He has that experience at the end. And the same, there's a shamanic element to this righteous fury that they don't. This is why they're always calm the fuck down, relax. You don't make a fool of yourself. No, but if you don't let that shit out, you will go nuts. You will actually get cancer and things like that instead.
Absolutely. Couldn't fucking agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things where here in the United States, especially, there's just this, I'll even call it a conspiracy to ensure that men in particular don't have any outlet for that to go into, that men are supposed to be this weak, passive, namaste, kind of, yeah, Russell Brand motherfucker that, you sit around and, never allow the anger to get out. And it's, yeah, of course, don't be a raging wife beater. Don't be, don't beat your children. Don't do shit like that. But that doesn't mean to not channel that masculine warrior energy into something, whether it's into a painting, into a song, like you said, Thomas, going to the gym and letting it all out on the weights, going to the gun range, whatever it is, you've got to have an outlet as a man for that kind of thing. And as a woman, I'm not just saying strictly for men, but in particular here in the US, it's just been viewed that, masculinity and that type of masculinity, they classify it as toxic masculinity, when in the end they are creating toxic masculinity by making a bunch of pussy men,
Yeah, and if they do get it out, it's things like video games. That's not getting it out.
Right.
That's going into a fantasy world. And it's also psychically not healthy either.
Right. And no testosterone.
No, I'm not against gaming. Gaming is okay when it's when it's just gaming. But if it becomes a compensatory thing, it has terrible psychological effects.
Yeah, and it's like, if you want to live in another reality, I recommend you just get a copy of the Lesser Key of Solomon here. I think that'd be much more fun playing with the demons and the Goetia. You know what? This is $11.99 on Amazon. So what's that? 78 cents per demon, right? Yeah, fucking great deal. But no, to go back.
I could do even better. The Book of Dead Names, the Necronomicon, is even cheaper. And Simon's Necronomicon, I've seen copies of that for €1 on eBay.
Value like that.
But to get back to everybody who is wondering what the first entity is, it is Baal, Bael. The first principal spirit is a king ruling the east called Baal. He maketh and go to invisible. He ruleth over 66 legions of infernal spirits. He appears in diverse shapes, sometimes like a cat, sometimes like a toad, and sometimes like a man, and sometimes all three at once, which we've all seen that artwork where the three heads all join together. I love that one. I wanted to make a Halloween decoration that looked like that. And then he speaketh hoarsely. This is his character, which is used. I'm not going to quote it exactly because I don't want to. But yeah, it's got the little sigil in there for him and everything. Yeah,
the toad-like thing is you ever notice like pathological females who are possessed, they devolve into toad-like creatures?
Yes.
That's they're so full of hate and vindictiveness, they become toad-like. You see that a lot. This toad kind of thing comes into them. And that seems to be the female aspect of that.
Oh, God. Yeah, everybody, tuning in here, we had a funny story to share with Thomas the other night. It was on Saturday, right after we had all kinds of weird esoteric shit happening. We're like, come in the door, and on the right by the door, there's a copy of, we got the Golden Dawn books and all of Crowley's library there. And dividing Crowley's books and the Golden Dawn books, there's a copy of Liber 333, the Book of Lies for all babes of the abyss, and it sits there as kind of a divider. And I came home from work, and I'm like, where the fuck is Liber 333? I'm like, T, did you take Liber 333 with you to work? No. So it's like, for real, we thought that Liber 333 had disappeared and there's all this Quranic energy going on. I'm like, God, Jesus, fucking Liber 333 disappears. So that night, getting ready for bed, Timony's son, Escher, Elf on the Shelf. Everybody, I'm sure all the parents in here have their Elf on the Shelf at home. Escher was being adorable and wanted to give his elf something, a little bit of bedtime reading. Sprinkles, his elf, was reading.
That's a great story.
Yeah, little Sprinkles is really, really into the esoteric. He wants to cross the abyss and become an 8=3 in the OTO, or whatever it is in the Astrum Argentium. But yeah, he's a babe of the abyss. Book.
He had him all set out, nice bedtime. He had it opened up. He was like, "Oh, I really wanted Sprinkles to have a nice bedtime story." I was like, "Holy shit, dude! Okay, you went right for the good stuff. Like you're a top shelf man. I appreciate that."
Went in at the deep end.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad it wasn't the copy of the Goetia. That would have been creepy having an elf entity looking at the Goetia.
Appearing in between the two of you and the sofa behind, his head popping up slowly.
Have to edit that in.
Yep. Sprinkles, our elf is an occultist.
Yep.
That's a really sweet story. although Drew Barrymore wouldn't like that. He'd be like furious, Devil crafts.
Furious. Okay. Okay, here we go. Shark panic as Erie live tracker reveals great whites amassing on USA's East Coast.
You're the fucking angel of death this week. Go ahead.
A live shark tracker has alerted users.
You should have showed up all dressed up in white with big fucking wings, pointing at the camera while they're
I'll
reading.
be right back. Hold on.
Sorry.
Go on.
Yeah, sharks eating Americans. Oh well, this is just great. You know?
Jason says, "Why they got to be white?"
Yeah.
You can't fucking say that shit, Jason. You can't just ask people why they're white. Okay, we're gonna get banned.
Yeah, those great white sharks really do fucking have white privilege. Yeah.
Those fuckers know what they're like.
The biggest shit. Yeah. Maybe that stuff is true after all. Go on. Sorry. Jaws' protege are back for dinner. Go ahead.
Oh, the great white privilege.
The great white privilege. Yeah.
Oh, my face hurts. Really, okay.
We're going. You know, you could make a great parody of the movie Jaws, and you could have like a soy boy sinking, and he's going, "We're going to need a bigger victim complex."
Oh God! Okay. I gotta pull it together.
Sorry. Well, calm down. Professionalism. No,
oh yeah, we are those. I forgot.
I will maintain decorum from this point on.
You better not. Okay. A tweeted screenshot of the shark tracker has gone viral, and people are both panicking and joking about the influx of man-eating creatures. Okay, sorry.
You mean they don't eat women? Sexist too.
Soy shark. Oh, somebody said soy shark. Oh God. Okay. Twitter appears to have started the shark discussion by tweeting a screenshot from the ocean shark tracker and saying, sharks are amassing on the East Coast. They added, I occasionally log in to check that the nearest great white is at least 2,000 miles away. The Twitter user was then shocked to be notified around 100 sharks very close to the East Coast. One person replied, is this normal or could this be a sign of a natural disaster? Or am I overthinking this? Lots of users also joked about a sea turtle called Junonia that's flagging up in amongst the sharks. One person tweeted, saw someone tweet about how all the sharks are gearing up to take over the East Coast. So I popped open my shark tracker app and discovered there's a bad bitch sea turtle getting in the mix as well. Go Junonia. Although the screenshot looks concerning, there's actually no need to panic. The shark tracker is run by OSearch, and they gave us a reasonable explanation for the large number of predatory fish on the East Coast. A spokesperson for OSearch told the Sun US, we are currently studying the Northwest Atlantic white shark, the white sharks that live off the eastern United States and Canada. This is why we have so many recently tagged sharks in this area. We have tagged 83 white sharks in the Northwest Atlantic. However, a shark expert also told us that climate change could be playing a role. Dr. David Lowe, director of the Shark Lab at California State University, told us, this isn't terribly uncommon since most of these sharks were likely tagged at nearshore locations. Although this is typically the season when smaller sharks are migrating to warmer southern waters. Much of this pattern is likely attributed to changing oceanographic conditions caused by climate change. Boo. In other news, Android users are being warned to update their phone's privacy, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Anyways, I had...
that was a huge fucking disappointment. I was expecting you to say, hey, there's a real cool shark story. In fact, Joe Rogan was speaking about it a while back. In a river in New Jersey, there was shark attacks 100 years ago where kids were all being eaten in the rivers. And sharks have been spotted in the Great Lakes swimming up the Mississippi and the Missouri things. Like that would be really cool if they showed up there. But all this guy shows up, like, is a bunch of them circling around a fucking turtle. I mean, there used to be there was a cartoon. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that there is something happening underground in the water that is causing them, because we didn't get the images up, but in the image, I mean, it's like, it is insane the amount of us, because it lights up little red dots wherever there is one. And there was hundreds of them all up and down the East Coast, which they kind of dumbed it down in the article. But when you look at the image, I think there's something going on underneath the water, whether it's like a seismic thing or whether there's like a sound or something that's going through the water. Maybe something's coming up, from Antarctica all the way through, that's causing them to group in such large numbers, because sharks, especially great white sharks, they're singular predators. They don't group together.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. Yeah.
Right. So that's, I mean, we got a good laugh out of it, but.
I know. Or maybe they're just feeling lonely and that the turtle is counseling them or something. Maybe the turtle is like a cult leader for sharks, getting all these isolated, disenfranchised white male sharks and, rounding them all up in a little cult,
Yeah. And I think this too is interesting what you were talking about, Thomas, with the man on the moon being off axis a little bit, and perhaps there is something going on with the tides or the salinity of the water changing and causing the sharks' natural what do they call that? They don't spawn, but they've got their own thing where they go through their own reproductive cycle where they go.
And they also follow certain schools of fish.
Yeah.
There's another one. Where I live, the dolphins usually come back every year looking for the mackerel, and they come real close to land. And you can see hundreds of dolphins. I haven't seen the dolphins in ages. It's like, where are they gone? Why are they not coming here anymore?
Yeah,
and that's like something that's always
someplace. Yeah, and they're probably ending up some random place too. Like, oh, look at all those fucking dolphins. We've never seen a dolphin here before. And
I'm telling you, the moon, the sun. I'm probably imagining things, but the day I took a photograph of the street, this shopping street near where I live, I have never seen the sun shine straight down this street at this time of year. It either misses it or to the left or to the right. It's shining down like Stonehenge or something. And it seems that the mornings are starting later and the evenings are coming sooner. It's like the sun is, and I've even said a few months ago, is it just me or is the moon too low in the sky? And I can tell you for a fact that man on the moon was on its side. I don't know, it was some kind of optical illusion or something, but the man on the moon was on its side. And that means that the world is in a different place.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just that has to affect things on the tidal level to, all these creatures being incredibly sensitive to the tides and the salinity, the specific gravity of the water, and just, their food moving where they need to lay their eggs and all of that stuff. So, yeah. And I mean, this might be one of those things where if it's 100 years ago, they were swimming up you said the Hudson? Is that what you're saying, Thomas?
Mississippi all the way to the Great Lakes.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got a good laugh out of that one.
Don't the Gnostics have this? Isn't there some kind of Gnostic belief that the Earth will escape the solar system one day and go and float off on its own through the universe? That's like I think it's like some kind of like neo-Gnostic belief that the Earth. The way the Gnostics believe the Earth is hell. It's a prison, and you either escape it by dying and going to heaven, or the Earth will eventually leave its orbit and float off into space, and that's how we'll escape this hell. So, you do wonder, don't you, when what that metaphor was really about.
Yeah. I got to wonder too, if there's such rich, tremendously good information within a lot of the Gnostic information that does seem like somebody came along at one point and watered it down and turned it into the thing where they believe that this realm that we exist in is somehow an evil place, that the whole fall of man concept that where we live here is fallen. And it's just like, that's just so weird because of the beautiful way that the Gnostics look at things is not that life itself is inherently evil, but it's almost as if that got edited in somehow,
Yeah.
And I just wonder,
when you read those Gnostic texts, though, they are incredibly dark. Yeah. They're full of victimization and victim complex kind of things. So it's like I've read the Gospel of St. Thomas, and I found it very, like, people are saying, oh, it's the one Christian book you will like. And it just seemed very fatalistic to me or something like that. I didn't like it. I don't relate. I mean, yeah, there's lots of things in Gnosticism that are fascinating and definitely worth going for. But on a whole, it's like the Groucho Marx. I wouldn't join that club, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was worth it for a laugh.
No, it's a good story. No, I'm going to be interested. I'm going to be looking at that. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a shark watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I remember the one thing I was gonna say that, I mean, what kind of fucking pussy man walks around and goes, oh my God, there's sharks out there. I check my shark tracker every day to make sure that the great whites are 2,000 miles away. Like, man, that what kind of like weak ass man is worried about great white? Because you heard that in the article, right? That some dude literally checks his great watch or his great white watch thing every day. And it's like, man, if that's your life, worrying about where sharks are, that's pretty pitiful.
I had a friend in school, Tommy Masterson, wouldn't go swimming in the sea because he said it's full of fucking fish having sex. That was his like thing. He says, and that, he says, yeah, it's just full of fish fucking. I'm not going swimming in that thing. But he was dead serious. He was like, that was his logic, you know. He's dead
Wait
serious.
till he finds out what happens in swimming pools with people in it. Poor guy. All right. Okay. Get it together. Han purple, a 2,800-year-old artificial pigment that quantum physicists are trying to understand. Han purple is an artificial pigment created by the Chinese over 2,500 years ago, which was used in wall paintings and to decorate the famous terracotta warriors, as well as ceramics, metalware, and jewelry. The pigment is a technological wonder, made through a complex process of grinding up raw materials in precise proportions and heating to incredible temperatures. So intricate was the process that it was not reconstructed again until 1992, when chemists were finally able to identify its composition. But this was just the beginning. According to a news report, research since then has discovered amazing properties of Han purple, including the ability to emit powerful rays of light in the near infrared range, as well as being able to collapse 3 dimensions down to 2 under the right conditions. The production of Han purple, otherwise known as Chinese purple, dates back as far as 800 BC. However, it appears that it was not used in art until the Qin and Han dynasties, 221 BC to 220 AD, when it was applied to the world-famous terracotta warriors, as well as ceramics and other items. Prior to the 19th century, when modern production methods made synthetic pigments common, they were only hugely expensive purple dyes. They were the only hugely expensive purple dyes. A couple of uncommon purplish minerals and mixtures of red and blue, but no true purple pigment, except during a few hundred years in ancient China. For an unknown reason, Han purple disappeared entirely from use after 220 AD and was never seen again until its rediscovery by modern chemists in the 1990s. Unlike natural dyes, such as Tyrian purple, which are organic compounds and typically made from plants or animals, like the murex snail, Han purple was a synthetic pigment made from inorganic materials. Only 2 other man-made blue or purple pigments are known to have existed in the ancient world. Maya blue, made from a heated mixture of indigo and white clay, and Egyptian blue, which was used throughout the Mediterranean and near the Middle East from 3600 BC to the end of the Roman Empire. Scientist Elizabeth Fitzhugh, a conservator at the Smithsonian, was the first to identify the complex synthetic compound that makes up Han purple, barium copper silicate, a compound that differs from Egyptian blue only through its use of barium instead of calcium. The similarities between Han purple and Egyptian blue led some early researchers to conclude that the Chinese may have learned to make the pigment from the Egyptians. However, this story has been largely discounted as Egyptian blue was not found further east than Persia. There's no clear reason why the Chinese, if they had learned the Egyptian formula, would have replaced calcium with barium, which necessitates increasing the firing temperature by 100 degrees or more. So how exactly did the Chinese stumble upon the intricate formula to make Han purple, which involved combining silica with copper and barium in precise proportions and heating to about 850 to 1,000 degrees Celsius? A team of Stanford physicists published a paper in the Journal of Archaeological Science. which proposes that Han purple was a byproduct of the glass making process, as both glass and the purple pigment contain silica and barium. Let's see here. Since its composition was first discovered, scientists have continued to investigate this unique pigment. Researchers at the British Museum discovered that when exposed to a simple LED flashlight, Han purple emits powerful rays of light in the near infrared range. According to their study, published in the journal Analytical and Bioanalytical Chemistry, the Han purple pigment shows up with startling clarity under the right conditions, meaning that even faint traces of the color, which are invisible to the naked eye, can be seen with infrared sensors. The fluorescent properties of Han purple were not the only surprise. Quantum physicists from Stanford, Los Alamos National Laboratory, and the Institute for Solid State Physics reported that when Han purple is exposed to extreme cold and a high magnetic field, the chemical structure of the pigment enters a new state called the quantum critical point, in which three-dimension material loses a dimension. We have known for the first time that the collective behavior in a bulk three-dimensional material can actually occur in just 2 dimensions. Low dimensionality is a key ingredient in many exotic theories that purport to account for various poorly understood phenomena, including high-temperature superconductivity, but until now, there were no clear examples of dimensional reduction in real materials. The scientists have proposed that this effect is due to the fact that the components of barium, copper, silicate are arranged like layers of tiles, so they don't stack up neatly. Each layer's tiles are slightly out of sync with the layer below them. This may frustrate the wave and force it to go down to 2 dimensions. The researchers have said the discovery may help understand the required properties of new materials, including more exotic superconductors.
Alchemy.
Fascinating, huh? That's
Alchemy.
Yep, that's what
the Chinese alchemists were so far ahead. A lot of their discoveries were, 1,000 years or so before the European alchemist discoveries. And a lot of it was to relate to ceramics production. When the Europeans first came to China, and the Dutch, the Portuguese, and the Venetians, they were amazed by Chinese ceramics. It was like they were looking at something they could barely comprehend. European ceramics were still very primitive at that time. Right up into the Renaissance, European ceramics were very poor, and they were just very basic glazes and stuff. And then they go to China and see these remarkable ceramics with all these pigments embedded into them and glazes that were just unbelievable by European standards. And that was all because of alchemy. And when those techniques were brought back to Europe by particularly the Dutch and the Venetians, they were bringing back alchemical secrets to actually create these ceramics. So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about alchemy. I mean, it's amazing that they didn't even mention that in the article, but that's what that comes from, Chinese alchemy. Fascinating stuff. The idea of, in fact, the color mauve is another one. The color mauve is a modern pigment that was only discovered in like the last 100 years or so, and it was discovered by accident. It was almost like an alchemical accident. And pigments do come and go. They do become extinct. I remember the Tate Britain Museum, the gallery in London, actually had a fantastic display of extinct pigments. And they had all kinds of colors, blues, reds, yellows, that no longer exist. The mineral has either been depleted. And these depletions of minerals is what led to these alchemists experimenting in the development of colors. So that's a great story. But the writer didn't do his full, research. It's obviously conclusions. That's alchemy we're talking about.
And Jade totally read my mind when she was talking about the terracotta warriors being imbued with that alchemical process, with what Timothy was reading there about it collapsing a 3-dimensional object down into a 2-dimensional object, and the amount of magical charge that you can create by collapsing a dimension like that. And if they were the terracotta warriors were painted with this on there, I imagine that you could do something to
put a warrior soul inside it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so Jade,
and actually
picked up on that as I was thinking about it. Yeah.
No, Jade is bang on them. Those things are far too complex and numerous just to be decorations.
Right.
There's a definite, there's a telepathic almost aspect to them.
Yeah, and just like any work of art, any work of art, depending on the artist, can be, that's why we call it a body of work, I'd imagine, because the work itself is infused with new life.
Yep.
And just that idea again, with spiritual alchemy and the concept of transcending one incarnation. I mean, the personality of a person living on through their artwork. But yeah, just that idea of collapsing a three-dimensional object down into a two-dimensional object. There could be like that event horizon there where something can be implanted into that material.
Oh, it's just fantastic. See, like the ancients knew this stuff. Not even the ancient the people in the Middle Ages knew this stuff. This is why Carl Jung was so interested in alchemy, that they knew that within these chemical processes were other forces at work that were outside the natural philosophy world, and brought things into manifestation, both within the people who were actually doing the alchemy and also within the substances themselves. Like a lot of alchemy was based on the fact that if you really want something to happen, you can make it. Anything. You can manifest it. There was a famous case during the I think it was the 100 Years' War, or the war between England and Napoleon III. No, not Louis XV. That war, the one that took place in Germany. I think the 7 Years' War. England could not get lye that was needed for the stripping of lanolin from sheep's skins, because if you wear a sheepskin on it directly, it itches you terribly. The lanolin that makes it waterproof is very irritable to human skin, and that's removed by bathing them in lye. And that lye, the mineral, was not available in England. So Charles II, or Charles III, sorry, whichever king it was, got an alchemist in England to go to the sea and to actually make a sea bath that used a combination of human urine and the tide to remove the lanolin, and it worked perfectly. But here's the thing: it only worked when he did it. When he oversaw the production, this alchemist, they were able to remove the lanolin from the sheep's wool and then bring back wool production. But when he stopped doing it and other people tried it, they couldn't do it, which shows you that it was directly related to his magical ability.
Yeah, I was going to say he was whatever he was able to project out into the field was what guaranteed the result.
Yep. It's just a bizarre thing, but after you can still go to the place in England today and see where the the lanolin bats were carved out of solid rock in the side of the seashore.
Wow. Wait, you said that was in England?
Yeah, they could not. Well, whatever they were trying to. Yeah, you look it up. It was some place in England. So they could be Google it right now, and it was. They could not get lye in England, so they had got an alchemist to develop it. Well, it was called. This is post Robert Boyle, so he was a chemist, but he used alchemy, and it's an amazing story. And there's the actual baths that the sheep's fleeces were put in, that the tide came in and took. Now this doesn't normally work, but it was a combination of people's urine and these rock baths at the sea that did the job of taking the lanolin out of the wool, and it's never been able. No one's ever been able to reproduce it because it was his alchemy.
That does make me wonder about the story of Jason and the Argonauts and the golden fleece. If that was more of an alchemical process that I've thought of, that wasn't actually a fleece made out of gold, but the same kind of thing of treating sheep's wool in order to make it wearable. That it again being an allegorical story. Yeah,
they had to stitch like leather on the inside to keep it away from the skin. But when they discovered these methods of using lye to remove the lanolin, then you could wear knitting jumper like this. You could wear this without no problem.
Yeah. But yeah, just this idea though that with alchemy, with magic, scientists are always looking for something that's repeatable and consistent, and it's like the observer has just as much, if not more, to do with the operation than the operation itself, and that's why all these I fucking love science types will never get it because they don't have the magic within them. They're trying to find meaning from something outside of themselves rather than taking meaning from within themselves and projecting it into an operation. So it's just
they don't even believe they're alive. Well, many of them aren't. Many of them are. They're highly educated NPCs. You know, you can actually see. Like I saw a stupid video the other day of like some scientist, I think it was in New Zealand or Australia, who did a rap, and it was like it was supposed to make it get yo yo yo, and they were just pure NPCs and totally without souls, and you could see it as clear as anything. And the comments were hilarious. It's like, well, no, I'm not, because after watching this video, you know, it's like they were it was just like, did you ever see that video where the people in the church going, Jesus is my N, that they're trying to appeal to the kids on the street? Oh my God, that video is Jesus is my N word. Look it up. It's unbelievable. It was as goofy and stupid as that.
Yeah. Or like the no square dance that they were doing, I think somewhere in was that over in the UK? The stop, don't touch me there. This is my no square, when they're that was in Holland or somewhere. Okay, yeah. Oh, that was classic. Stop, don't touch. This is my no square. And it's Germany, I think, and the NPC faces. It was unbelievable, you know. As if you can reason with someone by doing some kind of hand gestures, because their whole thing was about like fighting off sexual assault, right? And it's like, these people think that they can fight off sexual assault. They're being reasonable with these. Yeah.
No, it was even worse than that. It was for teaching Middle Eastern immigrants not to rape you German women or something like that. Oh, and so a song was going to do that, something like that. Yeah, I'm not joking. But speaking of which, you want to see the worst one ever? Google rap against rape. Okay, and it's a bunch of Irish lame DJs in 1990 doing a rap teaching you. And Hazel O'Connor, the singer, a famous singer, is in the stupid thing. And rape is wrong. Don't rape. Rape is it's the stupidest thing you've ever seen in your life.
And you can just see all the light bulbs going off. Oh, wow. Yeah. Why didn't I think of that before? Rape is wrong.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, to talk about the observer effect again, if we want to call it that, I'd say we're fucking really well off, because maybe it takes 1,000 NPCs to even come close to what one of us actual people with our souls intact, not falling for this bullshit, can do, right? And that's just purely mechanical force of what they're going to try and push through with laws, and not even laws. They don't even do that. Regulations and mandates and all this shit. But take maybe 1,000 of them to have even like maybe half of what the impact of what somebody who is integrated and can project their whatever it is out into the field that they want to see come to pass. And if we're all working together to kind of like get out of this, it guarantees our success.
Yep.
And with what Timony's saying there, it's like in the world, what really bugs me right now is there are not strong role models for men and for women, and for women in particular, because of the whole way that feminism has taken over things. But it's like you have someone like Timony, who is becoming that kind of female role model archetype of a real fucking human being, not an NPC, not somebody who's being paid by an agenda or being paid by someone to push an agenda. So I think it's really awesome to have a show like The Week in Strange hosted by Timony, where it's like, this is a female role model that young women, and don't even have to be young, that all women can look up to, and not be one of these fourth wave feminists or whatever they are now, whatever they call them, where there actually is like a healthy feminine energy back again, like real alchemist.
I don't want to sound incestuous or anything, but I actually see Timony as my kind of a mammy. She's kind of like she's like my American mammy. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but it's like, okay. And that's as far as it fucking goes. But I mean, but it's just like, I mean, that's the kind of energy I pick up off her. She's like the mammy, and like an old fashioned mammy too, as well. And we need more of that.
Absolutely.
So, good luck to you with that, because that's what the fucking world needs.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. That really means a lot. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I laughed really hard. I really needed to laugh really good today. So Thank you guys. The fucking shark story might have been lame, but we laughed our asses off, so it was worth it.
Well, there was a comic strip in the comic viz. There was a comic strip called The Pathetic Sharks. So that's a keep thinking. Look, Google that one as well. The Pathetic Sharks, and they're sharks that are used at like killing people. That's the butt of the joke. You know?
Sounds good. All right, you guys. Thank you all so much for showing up and hanging out with us again for another week in Strange. Have a fantastic week. We will see you guys out there in the wild on the internet. Keep it real. Don't let keeping it real go wrong. And yeah, we will catch you guys all on the flip side.
Yeah, and I mean, let's close the show out together. All three of us doing the No Square song, right? 1, 2, 3. Stop! Don't touch me there. This is my No
Square.
This is my No Square.
No Square. Good night, Wisconsin.